got my mask. I hope everybody has theirs. And we're going to have a good time and have a great conversation this morning. So without any further ado, again, I'm Kevin Warren. I'm the CEO and founder of the Life Group, the Love, Identity, Foundation, and Encouragement Group, as well as the executive director for the nonprofit organization, We Are All We Need Incorporated. Again, I'm happy that you all are here. We want to thank United Partners for Human Services and LaShawn, who was amazing, for kind of getting this all put together for us. And so without any further ado, yeah, you're on mute, Doc. I can't hear you. We can't hear your clap. We can see the claps. But LaShawn, we thank you so much for what you do and your leadership here in the community. And with that, let's go ahead and kind of introduce. I want to go ahead. I'll introduce you guys very briefly, but again, you guys will be able to kind of share all of what you do. So starting out, we got Dr. Willie Williams. We got Ms. Janae White, Margot Thomas, Kay Crawford, Sheena Christie, and Teresa Slade. So we thank you guys so much. Royal, and listen, how do I, I'm looking at the coolest guy and I go right, look at Royal King with just the baddest group of lamp-lighters that I've experienced. So listen, go ahead and take a second to introduce yourself. Please, panelists, tell us why you're here and kind of what the mission is for your mission for this call today. Let's start with Dr. Willie.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Willie Williams. I'm the program director for PACE Center for Girls, Leon County. At PACE Center for Girls, we serve about 70 middle and high school girls, comprehensive services, including a full academic class schedule, social services ranging from counseling to case management. And so we provide them with pretty much all around, all in one shop at our center. So when we talk about the mission for the conversation, Kevin, I think my mission for this conversation is to bring to the forefront that there's a lot of work that is still needed to reestablish communication, increase engagement, and strengthen the guidance to our youth. And one of the things we have to realize is come to the reality that we are not there yet with those things. We're not there yet. We're close, but we're not there yet. And I think we are able to kind of open that chapter in today's conversation.
Awesome. Listen, thank you, Doc. I'm looking forward to your insight. Let's go ahead to Janae White. Introduce yourself. Tell us where you're from and kind of your mission for today.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Good morning. My name is Janae White, and I serve as the founder and CEO of Girls to Divas Mentoring Program. Divas is an acronym that stands for Driven, Initiative, Virtuous, Astounding, and Successful. We are a free mentoring program here in Tallahassee, Florida. Offer one-on-one mentoring, monthly enrichment workshops, community service opportunities, educational field trips, and again, it's all for free. And I am excited to just be here at this table with all these amazing youth leaders to grow and to learn, to get inspired, and to go back and make the necessary changes for Girls to Divas so that we could better serve the community.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much, Janae. Ms. Margot.
Hi, I'm Margot Thomas, and I am the director for the Take Stock and Children program at Tallahassee Community College. We are obviously a mentoring program. We also provide college readiness, and when our students graduate from high school, they receive a 2-year scholarship to PCC. We do college readiness and career readiness workshops once a month, and our mentoring is done typically, well, now that we're in COVID, things have changed, but normally our mentoring is done one-on-one at schools. My reason for being here as well is just to collaborate with other programs because no man is an island and we all need each other because there are services that I may provide that someone else needs. There may be services that someone else provides that my students need. And so just being a part of a collective, collaborate to make sure that we are meeting our students where they're needed.
Thank you so much, Ms. Margot. Take Stock is an amazing program. I had the opportunity to sit with you, and so I've learned so much. So again, thank you for what you do. Royal, you almost had me jump up and do a step, man. Let's go ahead and tell us about yourself and where you're from, what you got going on.
So good morning, everyone. My name is Royal King. I am from Dallas, Texas originally. I'm the founder and executive director for the Omega Lamplighters Young Men's Mentoring Program. I've been doing this since I was a young lad myself, and I'm not that old now. And I guess my big purpose for being here is kind of along the themes of the conversation, but started a saying within our program a few years ago, together we'll do the impossible. And that simply just says that none of us individually or as our own families get where we are alone. So I'm here today to hopefully empower and learn from some other experts, but then also the people who are on this call provide some insight on how you can join these different villages and become a part of the solution.
All right. That's the key. That's the buzzword today. It's going to be village. Right? We all know that it takes a village to kind of raise a family, and it definitely takes a village to unite a community. So let's go to Kay, Miss Kay Crawford. You unmute, Miss Kay. Not yet. Uh-oh. Here, work that out. Oh, there you go. I think it came up. Can we hear you now? Hold on, KK. I don't want them to not hear you. I don't want them to not hear you. If you can bring their phone a little closer to you so we can hear you. Is that better? Or turn the volume up. Maybe put on the speakerphone. Here, what we'll do, let's go ahead to Sheena, and then we'll see if we can't get your audio sound right. And then we'll jump right back to you. Sheena, go ahead and let us know who you are and where you're from. And then Kay, we'll jump right back to you.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm Sheena Christie. I'm the founder and director of Beehive Elite. And what Beehive Elite is a performing arts organization that caters to youth in grades kindergarten through 12th grade. We provide instruction in majorette, contemporary, ballet, jazz, and hip hop technique. Beehive Elite believes that there is nothing more gratifying than sharing our love of dance with the youth in our community. My mission for being for this conversation is to explore how our organizations are serving the youth at this time during the uncertainty with COVID and everything surrounding that. While our individual organization missions may slightly vary, ultimately we all strive to positively impact the youth so that they may continue the cycle of giving back to the community as they travel through life.
Awesome. Kay, were we able to get you back right? I love
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah.
There you go, right there.
Is that it? Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Kay Crawford, founder, executive director, and organizer. I wear a lot of hats at STEMs for Girls. I am humbled and excited to if it's possible to share those two emotions at the same time, to be on this panel to discuss creating and cultivating the village and engaging youth through crisis and chaos. In my mind, those are two separate discussions that I hope to bring together by focusing on when you create and cultivate the village, you engage the youth through crisis and chaos. So although my emotions might be all over the map because I feel really deeply about both engaging youth and creating and cultivating the village, I hope that we can share some important tactics to do a better job at to do what we can within our space to reach the youth and young children.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Kay. I knew we'd get you together. I knew it would. I wanted to kind of just put some context and some framework around today's discussion for us. I want to say this. I know that we are living in the midst of chaos and crisis at the same time. I think those two things are the same, but they're very different in our experience. So I want us to be very sensitive, right? The Life Group is trauma informed. So I really want to make sure during this conversation, not only for us as panelists, but for our viewers, that we understand that some of the conversation may be triggering to some of our emotions and feelings, consciously and subconsciously, right? So I want us to know that it's absolutely okay to take a breather, right? To have to take an emotional break or step away for a little bit of time to kind of keep yourself composed. Our mental health is the most important thing, right? Especially during times of crisis and chaos. And so during this time, I would like us as panelists, like you all as panelists, to try to shape your responses and your comments to about 2 to 3 minutes, right, max. And then when you're kind of going back to and forth, if we can, I don't know, this Zoom is a little different. So if we can try to make sure that we let each other finish, or if we politely interrupt and maybe put a hand up, and we'll kind of, I'll kind of try to see and jump in where I can. But again, we're going to jump right into it. I'm one for small talk in small moments, but this is not one. We don't have any small minds or small leaders on this call today. And so we're talking about mentoring. We're talking about social and emotional security. We're talking about life skills. We're talking about providing compassion and support, and most importantly, parent involvement. And so when we talked about mentoring. I know a lot of us run mentoring organizations. In this moment, in this time, can you help us as a group, right, as a community, understand how are we doing mentoring in COVID, right? What does that even look like during this time of crisis? What is mentoring and how does it look in this moment? And anybody can jump in there, right? Let's start that. Let's anybody jump in there. Who's doing something and how are you doing it? How are you adapting?
I can start. So okay. Girls to Divas never offered a summer camp. We always wanted to, but never had the capacity to make it happen yet. But because of COVID, we had to get creative, and we understood the importance of not allowing the girls to be home doing absolutely nothing, not building themselves, building their character, growing and learning. So we decided to provide the youth with a free virtual summer camp. And in this summer camp, we're providing guidance to them. We're doing mentoring Mondays and mindfulness Mondays. We have speakers from all over coming through, talking to the girls. On Wednesdays, we highlight entrepreneurship, and along with highlighting entrepreneurship with the speakers coming in, we're also providing them with the content so they're building their own businesses while we're on the calls together. And then on Fridays, we have career exploration, and these are non-traditional jobs, right? So I didn't want them to learn about the doctors and the lawyers, which are all great. We wanted them to learn about the other positions that are out there, the veterinarians and the radio personalities, just the different industries that they could step into. So we're offering also a book club for them. We're reading a book together because we're all home and we can read more. And we're doing a virtual college tour. So we're just trying to figure out ways to fill up the space and keep them engaged and not let them just sit at home and be bored. And it hasn't been easy keeping their attention on these virtual calls. We have to get up and stretch every now and then, you know, sing a song. Yeah. But we get back into the work. So that's what Girls to Divas has been doing.
Wow, that's awesome. Dr. Willie, I see you.
Yeah, and Janae's actually right. And I appreciate what you said initially, Kevin, as far as trauma informed and really trying to contain our emotions as much as possible. I think this is the first time I've ever been involved with a panel that consisted of all youth professionals who are engaging and on the front lines of working with our youth. And I'm gonna tell you now, I'm gonna try my best to contain my excitement and my emotion, but I am gonna be real as real as possible with this, because I'm so passionate about the youth. And when you say, what does mentoring look like today on this new platform and this new society that's been created with the COVID and the racial tensions, I think it looks rather complicated. I mean, kind of like what Ms. White is touching on, we've had to really go above and beyond and just explore different means to really meet our youth where they are at. And, you know, we used to say that a lot prior to this is, yeah, you got to meet them where they're at. But today's reality became a real reality because we had to explore different ways to get in touch with these youth and then maintain the connection with them. And that's been the most difficult thing, because one of the things that came to the forefront was not all of our youth had this technology access. Yes. Everybody wasn't created equal when it came to internet and laptop access. And we found that out quickly, especially a majority of the youth that we are serving. So So yeah,
no, let's stay right there for a second, Doc.
Yes,
Stay right there. You touched on the point. Now, everybody wasn't created equal when it comes to the technology. And let's not, I mean, we're here, right? When we look at those that we serve, we like to think of diversity, and we would love to have diversity in our program. And some of us really do. But a lot of us serve the minority community, right? And so some of our barriers with that being technology, what has been your workaround? What has been kind of the fight, Royal, for you with your youth? What have you been able to do, or, how have you kind of tried to fight this barrier?
Man, good question, Kevin. So a lot of it's been, really, it's forced us to connect with the parents on a deeper level, right? So in most cases, the parents have some type of phone, and we purchased some laptops and some auctions from FAM and provided a couple of those to some of our youth, reached out to our local libraries and was able to help them get the Wi-Fi access cards so that they can have internet at their home to kind of assist with some of the things that we're doing. But luckily, a lot of them, their parents have some kind of computer or something in their home or some kind of digital device. So we've been able to successfully move to a digital platform. But in some instances, we've had to go outside of our normal means to help support our kids and get them what they need.
Question. How many on the call right now, how many of you panelists serving the youth have ran into the barrier of technology from your youth side so far? Okay, I have as well. Okay, so 100%. I think we want to jump in right here. How can the community support that? We have the community on. How can the community specifically support that need? We have a lot of IT folks on, a lot of sales professionals, a lot of business owners. How is it that the community can directly support that need?
Money. I'm sorry, that slipped. I thought I was on mute.
That slipped. Listen, that jumped real quick out there, Jock.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought I was on mute. I'm not.
Don't apologize.
I'm not about it at all. We need money. We need funding. There's free internet services, but they're limited. They're laptops, but they're minimal. But if you can give us money, we can do the best with those resources than any other organizations out there, because we've learned how to live with less. So if you give us more, we can do something exceptional with it.
Okay. Listen, I'm always going to play devil's advocate a little bit, right? So from the other side, I want us to say we know crisis creates chaos, right? Which brings out those opportunists, right? There are a lot of folks that want to say now they may jump into the game. So if I'm a funder, right, if I'm a private funder, what types of things should I be looking at into a program to know that the money that I'm giving will be able and will get directly to that need or to that youth? What is it that I can do as a funder? How can I, without being, very kind of over the top, how can I say, hey, I really want to make sure these funds are getting to the youth? If it's a cash donation or for monetary donation?
And so that, I would say results. I mean, you're looking at what the results are, whether or not the organization is actually keeping track of those results. Because I know that, a lot of nonprofits, sometimes we get into nonprofits because we really care about, whatever our mission is for our students or for the people we serve. But then some people are not organized and they don't take the time to track the results. So we have a lot of stories, we have a lot of, what it is that we say that we do, but there's nothing that backs it up. And a lot of grant funding requires us to show some type of outcome for what it is that we do, whether it's, if we're saying that students are excelling, well, how do you know that? One of the things obviously is getting report cards or looking at test scores or those things. If you don't have any relationship with the parents, the schools, any of those things, then there's no way that you can actually show that your students are moving up and it's not just anecdotal. It's hard facts. And when we're giving our money to someone, if I'm giving my money to someone, at the end of the day, I need to be able to see what it is that you're doing with the money that I gave.
Right. Kay, I want to bring you in. You and I have had an amazing conversation when you came by the center, understanding what you do and how you serve the youth. I was extremely impressed by the data metrics and the way that your board and your structure was created. Can you tell us some of the things, the key performance indicators that STEM for Girls may look at? And also those community leaders who may be up and coming, how can they look at, or what should they look at to kind of collect data? Where can they start? And Doc, I want you to tag in on that too from the PhD side.
Thank you for that question. One of the things that I am very adamant about, and that is having goals and objectives. And I'm really passionate about meeting those expectations. And the only way that we can know if we are meeting those expectations is through pre and post assessments. So our focus is on developing literacy, science and technology literacy. So we may use vocabulary words related to a particular topic, and then we find out what the student knows about that topic beforehand, and then we test them afterwards. That gives us the proof and data that we need to show that after school enrichment programs are giving the population that we serve a better opportunity to participate in classroom discussions. So we look forward to expanding our research to find out whether or not after school enrichment programs in communities where there is very limited access and resources is going to improve science, math scores at the end of the day.
Right. Thank you, Kay. I think that what you said was key. You said a lot of, as I call it, funding terms, right, that we look for in the grant world and in the funding sector. Pre and post assessments, right? Measurables, outcomes, goals. Those are all very important. I also know, right, serving this community and serving the leaders of this community, there are times, community champions, there are times where these words are intimidating, right? This becomes intimidating to think of, oh, I got to collect data. Oh, I have to pre and post test assessments and things of that nature. Dr. Willie, I want to bring you in here from that curriculum writing programming perspective. Help us make it make sense. How can we, is it that complicated, right? Or if I'm starting off, what do I need to do to just collect the baseline data? Give me just the quick play.
Yeah, I think Miss Kay and even Miss Margot have already kind of touched on that. And then even in the chat, Mr. Moore kind of touched on it as far as the metrics and the data and the measurables. And all that adds up to the quantitative collection of data, right? But what I don't think is intimidating as far as organizations collecting that information, and particularly our organizations, a lot of the small organizations that deal with a large amount of youth, it's not intimidating as much as it is challenging. Because a lot of the staff that are with these youth programs oftentimes are volunteering. So they may not have a data person that can sit and collect all that data and put it together and make it readable or legible for somebody outside. Now, organizations like PACE, yes, we have a whole board that can sit, and we got people in place that can collect that data and spit it back out to you. But some organizations, they do focus on, you can see.
Well, okay.
Where you can see impact having.
Okay, you were breaking up a little bit at the end of that, at the end of your sentence, Doc. I don't want us to miss these jewels. Can you repeat that last part? Okay, may have some difficulty. Check your connection if you can. It seems like you're buffering a little bit. We had a question or something that was brought up, right? Bringing the funding through in the chat. We talk about, and this is a hot topic, trauma alert for some of us, right? We talk about defunding of police, right? We're talking about we needing funding, right? What does that look like when we think of defunding the police and funding local community organizations, how would that impact mentoring and how would that impact your program? Let's not be shy. We're talking about money.
Question?
Yeah, so we actually, let me go to it from the chat. How would less policing and more funding impact our at-risk youth? To be direct.
I'll try to handle that a little bit. So a lot of the policing or money that's going into policing, if some of that could be moved around and allocated for programs that allocated to nonprofits that work with preventing the students from ever getting to that point. So if we could work together, so like with Take Stock, one of the things is behavior. Another of the things that we check all the time is attendance. So we know that if a student is attending school all the time, they are less likely to be out doing any criminal activity or anything like that. So they won't hopefully get through the juvenile justice system and filter into the prison pipeline. Mentoring is kind of the same thing. If students have, most of the students that we serve, I'll say for us, it's first generation. They'll be the first ones in their family to go to college. All of them are low income. So we have all of these things, these characteristics that kind of helps us see that this is normally the trajectory that these students go through. So if we have a way of reducing that at this age, at the stages of middle school, high school, then the hope is that if we do that now, then they won't go into the system and there won't be a lot of the need for policing because we've kind of prevented a lot of those issues early on.
Perfect. I love that. Sheena, I got to get you engaged because listen, you have one of the programs that serves our most precious babies, and I know you have a lot of them that you serve. So I want to ask you specifically to jump in here from the standpoint of what could, I know you have a lot, we talked and you came by the center, you have a lot of expenses when it comes to serving the dance group, right? Travel, uniform costs, gym space, things of that nature. And you serve our at-risk and underserved population. So tell me, what would $25,000 do for your organization?
$25,000 would do a lot, man. We can take away those extra expenses from the parents that come from uniforms, and we're wearing about 10 different uniforms per season. We're traveling. Occasionally, we would use the charter buses. So if parents didn't have to cover that cost and we were able to fund it, they can that would be an increase in the number of dancers that we have that can attend, because some just can't go because they don't have the funds at that time. We require hairstyles and makeup just to make sure that we're in uniform and we present well when we go out. Being able to have more tutors to help with homework when the girls are having academic where they need to buffer up on their academics.
Right.
Maybe they're not doing so well in a certain subject, so we are able to have mentors to come in and assist with that special subject area.
Right.
At $25,000, man, I can do a lot with that, man.
Look, so Royal, here's one thing I want to bring you in too, Royal, on this. One thing that we talk about is scholarships and knowing how, as an organization, how much does it cost for each kid to go through your system or go through your program, right, for 1 year's time. So let's say $25,000. How many youth would that support in your program, Royal?
So brand new youth, new to our program coming through the induction, with $25,000, we could probably support easily 40 to 50 new kids through the year. And that's doing everything we do. That's the induction, that's going on our 500 Miles of Freedom College and Civil Rights educational tour. The other additional trips we take, if they stepped and were on the team, the travel expenses for that, it would cover that and some for those 50 plus years.
Yeah. So good. I mean, those are the things that we really need to hear, right, to understand exactly. We hear that defunding of police and we get upset because we think of less security. But when you think of investment, right, to me, when I look at it, it's an investment. When I invest my money, I don't invest my money expecting to get a return on it right away, right? I put money away knowing that I'm playing the long game right, for long-term security. And so I want to bring in our guest real quick. Doc, I see your hand up. We got a hand up from Benji Smith. I want to bring Benji in. You know, LaShawn told me I had to, so I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna listen. So I want to bring Benji in. Benji, go ahead with your question. Make sure you unmute yourself so we can hear you. There you go.
It's not really more of a question. Just want to kind of introduce and touch on a couple of topics that I've already been covering to address like the technology issues. Here is a private public charter school here in the community. We're a Title I school, so we deal with all of the same kids that you guys deal with. And some of the major issues, especially when we all had to go virtual, was technology. So one thing that we have here is we actually issued iPads to every student. So all of our students and every student that we're enrolling and even into the future, we're supplying the technology to bridge that gap. So, and that's coming from, we're tying ourselves back into the community. So we're actually working with a lot of local businesses and things like that to build partnerships to help fund, making sure that all of our kids have that technology, and to bring in programs, into the school, that supply to the youth. So we have a new program called 21st Century. It's a lot like some of the ones that you all do. We do have to track all the data that's coming in and out, what it supplies, how it works with, the different funding versus what they're learning. And, we offered a virtual summer camp for them as well. We supplied all the technology for that as well. And what you all are dealing with as far as like funding versus that, we're actually tracking all of that, and we'd be more than happy to, reach out and help everyone
absolutely
deal together. Because we're trying to trailblaze through this just like everybody else, and we're here to help.
Yeah, absolutely. Benji, thank you so much for that. Can you please give me your contact information, and I'll go ahead and make sure that all the panelists have it and get that to LaShawn.
Sure.
Okay, now Doc, I know you came in. What is it that I know you want to jump in there? Going back to kind of the funding, defunding, and what it costs. I don't want to miss your perspective. Jump in.
I think the terminology is something that we have to look at changing, and it begins with us. When we talk about defunding law enforcement and less policing, that's not necessarily the case. It's not defunding, as Ms. Margot mentioned. It's just reallocation of funding and taking that money and putting it towards social services, and not holding law enforcement responsible for learning how to engage with people who may have mental health issues and all of that, because that's putting a lot on them and putting additional training on something that initially they didn't join the force to do. And so if we're able to put a social component to that, a social program to that, then we can kind of divide their duties and responsibilities and have that taken care of. And then it's not necessarily less police. Less policing, when you start talking like that may give people the opportunity to think they're going to police themselves and police their own streets. And that's kind of what led us to the situation, is people with guns becoming deputizing themselves. So we got to stay away from that and make sure terminology and the wording is clear. And I think the only other thing I wanted to add on is Mr. Smith brought up a good point as far as utilizing local services and local businesses that are around you. And I actually think that is probably one of the greatest challenges here in the Tallahassee area, because we are a government entity. We're so limited. We don't have a vast amount of businesses, and definitely with the universities here, a lot of pops are often tapped or overtapped. So it's hard to really find funding for every organization, because a lot of people end up hitting the same donors over and over again. So money does become very scarce when it comes to looking for donations and donors to support organizations in Tallahassee's area.
Yeah, thanks, Doc. So listen, LaShawn came and told me that there's some heat going on in the chat room right now. I want to invite Mickey Moore to go ahead and kind of share some of the statements that he's been sharing about funding within the chat. So please jump on, unmute yourself, and jump on and share some of that information.
Good morning. Good morning. It's good to be here. Can you hear me?
Yes. Please introduce yourself. Let us know where you're from. Also, I'm sorry.
Sure. And I'll do the video, but don't laugh. For y'all that know me, I just got in a run this morning, so I'm not looking too good, Dr. Willie. I'm not dressed as nice as you this morning. So, but yeah, my name is Mickey Moore. I'm with Moore Business Strategies. We're a consulting firm that helps nonprofits, for-profits through transitions, mostly centered around governance, board relations, fundraising, structure, process, those types of things. So my background, of course, is the nonprofit world. I was an executive director for 10 years here in Tallahassee and a banker for about 15 years. So I'm enjoying the conversation, and I like to type away and kind of support what everybody's saying. Most importantly, regardless of how the funding ends up being shifted around, I encourage all of our clients and anybody who will listen to build a very diverse fundraising wheel. Now that takes resources, that takes time, that takes a commitment, that takes a plan. But the more diverse your fundraising spokes are on your fundraising wheel, the less susceptible you are when crisis happens. It's easier to pivot to another spoke on the wheel when things go wrong if it's already in place. I said earlier, 80% of giving in 2019 came through individuals. So while businesses and grants and government funding is important and special events is part of the wheel, if you've got that sustainable building relationship with individuals on a proactive basis, consistent basis, they'll still give and they'll still support you when things are hard. So I would just say that for everybody on the call, look at your CRMs, build your database, track your measurables, build your case for support, and invite your donors or prospects to participate in as many ways as you can. The more ways they participate, the relationship becomes sticky, right? And then they likely stay as a supporter for a long, or an investor, I'll say, for a long time. So keep up the good work, everybody, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Absolutely. Mr. Moore, we thank you so much. We would ask that you, again, put your information also into the chat. We will definitely be connecting with those of us in the chat. The panelists I know, we actually are creating this coalition for youth services here in the Leon County area and even our region. And so we will definitely be bringing in you all to have these conversations. A word that has been coming up so many times, right, has been diversity. And let's really jump into that. I want to get a little awkward, right? We had a conversation, LaShawn and I, and we were talking about diversity within our programs. And she kind of mentioned having a conversation with a woman who said, are there any program, my kid, he's a white kid, he's this, he's a little weird, a little this, a little that, a little too much energy. Are there any program, how can I get him into something like a Lamplighters? And so I want to kind of talk about that. I know the Lamplighters, from the outside looking in, it's ran by a Black man, right? It's made up of a lot of Black men. But I don't read into your policy or your description anywhere that it says that you're a Black male organization. So how is it with diversity, and is that something for you? What is your goal there with becoming more diverse as an organization?
Yeah, so thank you, Kevin. Absolutely. So the program, when I started it, was to help youth and youth who were like me. And that doesn't always mean youth that look exactly like me. But as we grew it, it just kind of gravitated, those youth gravitated to the program. And it's funny because we've been having these conversations with our youth regularly, and the program was not only set up for them, it was just set up for youth who needed help. And with everything that's happening in the world, it's now even more important that I take, in the leadership of our program, take a more active role in diversifying our program, right? Because the kids in my community program, majority of them are Black. And so one, those kids need to be comfortable and have real relationships with people who don't look like them. But then also they need to be able to have those relationships and be able to have that same kind of relationship with other kids, not just adults that don't look like them. So even in that, I challenge and call out anybody who would be willing to join our team. I think that's the first step in diversifying the program, is getting men and women who don't look like them but have a passion for service and want to help kids to join our team, so that our boys can begin to become comfortable. And then others who see it, see that, well, they have people that only don't look like them in their program. Well, I feel more comfortable getting my kid involved. And then, you know, a year or two from now, you're talking about a completely different looking program and developing kids on a whole nother level.
Yeah, yeah. Kay, Janae, and Sheena, you guys uniquely serve young girls, right? I want to bring you all into this conversation as well when we talk about diversity, right? In which ways, what are some barriers in the diversity and in getting diversity in your program, right? And then Janae specifically, I wanted to ask you, with parents, right? Parent engagement. How do you diversify? How do you encourage your parents to diversify their relationships to support you in that? So you three, let's start there with Miss K, from just diversifying your program. How do you do that with girls?
Wow, that's a very deep subject for me. It's something that I think about often, and that is because STEMs for Girls is offering science, technology, engineering, and math enrichment programs to children primarily living in underserved communities. So we actually bring our program, STEM literacy, into those communities. And we recruit online through Volunteer Leon for student mentors and what are we calling them? Individuals who are interested in working with the children in our after-school program. So what I have, are you getting feedback?
A little bit.
Okay. So what I have noticed is that because of the environment that we're in, 90% of our volunteers are biology pre-med majors. And of that 90%, I'd say 85, maybe 89% are not women of color.
So your issue, if I'm hearing you correctly, your issue in the barrier of diversity is more along the lines of your volunteer pool and your tutoring pool, not necessarily from your members.
Not necessarily from our members. And we don't foresee that being a problem.
Kate, I don't want to interrupt, but I think you're talking on your phone, and if you mute your computer, then I think we'd only pick up one of the microphones that's trying to pick up, because I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting some feedback. It sounded like an echo voice. So while you jump on that, Janae, go ahead, if you can jump in on that diversity and things of that nature too.
Well, I can definitely speak to the lack of diversity in my organization. That's one thing I'm hoping for. Our style of dance is what's comfortable in the Black community, because we usually are doing the hip hop major at HBCU style of dance. So we do that comfortably, but to get others in from other backgrounds, it's been a challenge for us. So what we're trying to do now is incorporate more styles of genres, which include the ballet, contemporary, art of dance, so that way we can possibly reel in other dancers. But all we want is, any youth that are willing to give it a try. They may come in with not much knowledge of how to dance, rhythm, or whatever, but we can get them there. All we need is for them to come. And then another diversity factor that holds us back is, although we cater to, most of our population is from the Black communities, it's in an economic status where they can't really afford to do it. So while we would probably have more dancers that could participate if I'm giving them like a scholarship to participate, or picking them up every day, or purchasing their uniforms, they couldn't do it on their own. And me as one person, being that I'm a mother of four, like I can't do it on my own to, cover the.
But let's do this. Let me say this. You have been, right? Because you sat in my office and we talked about this, And one thing that I'm so proud of you for is being able to still offer scholarships out of your own pocket. And so I do want to take this opportunity for you to get a good plug in. How much is it to put a girl through your program for a year?
The math that I came to was 900 a month. I mean, 900 a year. So that's broken down to every girl paying $75 a month. That still doesn't include other things that they may need, but that's a start. And then we can just work on everything else.
So community, we're going to support the Beehive with $1,000 scholarship, right? That was what it will look like. A minimum $1,000 scholarship will support their girls. So that's the number I like to put on it. Janae, and I know Kay, if you got your if we're good to go, then I do want to jump back to you before Janae. We're going to kind of move it with the parent question. So I do want to give Kay an opportunity to finish your thought.
Okay, so is that better? Can you hear me?
That's perfect.
Okay. I think that we touched on a couple of things, and that is the type of programs that we offer that bring in a diverse community of participants. Because STEMs for Girls is doing science and technology more on a STEM literacy, we get a wide variety of participants, and we do foresee that expanding. The one thing that I have to be very intentional about, and that is training our volunteers to meet our children where they're at, to become comfortable and understanding their culture. And so that is our biggest challenge at this point. So one of the things we have been doing during this COVID-19 is training. We're trying to get a lot of cultural diversity training. It's something that I'm really intentional about, because there are significant differences in the way we teach, hear, and act.
Absolutely. So I want to, off of that, I want to jump in real quick. I had a conversation yesterday, and this is a little off, about bringing in the conversation. As you all know, we just launched, and tomorrow we're officially launching to the community, the Life Center, right, the village. And in that community space, I would love to begin to have these dialogues with the youth, right, with diverse youth panels. I know, Dr. Willie, you specialize in pulling together these panels. So we would love to bring in these kind of fishbowl conversations around diversity with our youth, allowing them to get really into the thick of not only policing, but Black Lives Matters, things of that nature, but we're kind of the civil unrest that we're experiencing. So with that, two things, Janae, that I kind of now want to kind of piggyback off of you and your expertise is to say, talk about, and I know we've talked about this, the social and emotional security of our youth, right, throughout this time of chaos and crisis, but at the same time, the parent diversity. How is it that if we serving Black and brown folks a lot, how is it, if we're very honest, how do we get the trust factor and kind of the comfort level and reduce anxiety amongst parents to become more diverse as a family?
Ooh. That's a loaded question. And for Girls to Divas, this has been our area of focus lately, because we understand that you can't move without the parent being right there with the child. Like, we have to make sure that the parent is on board, and the parent has all of this going on, right? The parent is working right now or not working during this season, and just trying to get their attention enough to focus on the program and letting them know this is what we can offer to your youth. Take some time. So with Girls to Divas, we started doing some parent meetings, and while the numbers aren't where we want them to be as far as each child being represented, we have been seeing some diversity when it comes to the family structure. So we're expecting the mom or dad to tune in, but it may be the uncle or the cousin. So just letting the parents know that, okay, maybe mom or dad can't be present, but we just need somebody to show up for this youth. So that's how we've been trying to pull in everybody, because we've been trying to just attack who was in the household, mom or dad, guardian. But going outside of that scope to bring in that family aspect has been helpful for Girls to Divas.
Wow.
But it has.
See, I knew I asked the question to the right person. I knew that loaded, fully loaded baked potato of a question was for you, right? I knew you could unpack that well because you offered a different perspective of diversity, right? Even than what we think. We would just think of cultural diversity, but you're even taking it to the step of relational diversity. Like, who is it? It may not be mom and dad, right? You may have that relationship with aunt and uncle. And so I do want to kind of jump into the chat because I think we're at a perfect segue. We had an amazing question come in. Let me get back here so I can give the proper kudos. It was Bridget, right? Thinking about mentors. I know we've talked about here, Kay, you mentioned your volunteer base and training. How is it during, and Janae, you mentioned your parent support and Zoom calls. What I want to understand, and from this question, how are we recruiting during COVID, right? And how are you recruiting mentors? How is the pipeline, been affected by COVID? And also, how are background checks being completed right now? Maybe Margot, there you go. Yeah.
I'll jump in. I've been doing Facebook, so Take Stock's Facebook page, my personal Facebook page, meshing them all together, then just kind of reaching out to people that I know or people who may have shown some interest in mentoring before, but they couldn't do the face-to-face because, they couldn't go into the schools once a week. So we've been promoting it now as, because we know that at least in the fall and probably for the whole year, most of the schools, Leon County schools, we won't be able to go in. The beauty of our relationship with Leon County schools, though, is some of our staff are considered mentor coordinators for them. So we train our mentors Leon County schools way. We send them to Leon County schools, the school board, and they do background checks that way. So from what I gather so far with our conversations with the schools is that we'll continue to do that the same way. We're working with FAMU. We believe that they'll still allow us to come in since we have a smaller group there and some of the other schools, but we know that for the most part, we'll be doing virtual mentoring. And so obviously that's going to be a challenge, right? Because, well, I guess it could be a challenge as well as it can add to some success because you're looking at, okay, now we have the opportunity for people to mentor virtually, so they don't have to do face-to-face, but then our staff also does group where we bring them in through Zoom and we try to hit them in different ways that we can. The funny thing with when COVID hit, Take Stock was just starting a mentor app that we were rolling out in the fall. And during the summer was when we were going to do all of the troubleshooting and seeing how it worked. Well, then COVID hit and it's like, oh, okay, well, now it's that time. But we had so many issues initially because, it's like you're rolling something out that hadn't been tested. And, the plan was to test it during the summer. So we had that difficulty. But I think it's still, there are opportunities, obviously, in everything. And we just have to look at that as an opportunity to do it the way we do. And so, I see Denisha Sword on here, who actually just signed up to be one of our mentors. And so those are opportunities that we're going to have to look at instead of, we can look at it as a challenge, and it probably is, but we also have to find those opportunities in what we have, because really there's nothing else we can do to make it work.
Dr. Willie, I want to pull you in this particular conversation and tag on, piggyback off of something that you mentioned before we made this slight shift to diversity. And I wrote down, you said less policing, right? Or less police, right? And taking some of the ownership off and responsibility off of the police to be able to support things on calls like mental health, those types of things. So hearing that and the mentoring question and how do we stream up that pipeline, in my mind, I was thinking it's not less police, right? But we're really creating more policing, right? Based upon being able to recruit that volunteer pool and empower the community a little bit more to support those mental health issues and needs that are out there. So the question that I specifically kind of want you to kind of jump in on is how can we better recruit during this time of COVID, right? And what types of training, right, should we be putting our leaders through?
Right, and so that's a great question. And so once again, I think we definitely have to make sure we're specific and purposeful with the terminology when we're talking about defunding, less policing, more policing. And like I said, it's not necessarily defunding police, it's not less policing, it's just creating another metric to assist law enforcement and have somebody go out there with them and say, okay, you guys take it in. And I think DCF in Lower South Florida actually does a good example of that. They have a Department of Children and Family Investigation unit that goes out with law enforcement when there's any interaction that involves youth. And so they take the forefront in engaging with the youth instead of law enforcement taking the forefront. And we just have to utilize blueprints that are already in place. And that's the same thing with creating these social service components. You know, law enforcement and our leaders do not have to look at how do we create this? It's already created. These organizations, these mentoring programs are already out there. And that kind of segues into the diversity thing. You know, when you look at diversity of a lot of these programs, it's kind of, you know, prior to coming with PACE, I was over a youth program. And when you look at the diversity is based on promotion, which a lot of these programs can't run commercials on TV and radio because it requires money. So a lot of their recruitment is really based on word of mouth. Somebody saying, hey, man, I'm in the Lamplighters. You should come to this program. Hey, you know about that free scholarship money at TCC? Or, hey, man, did you see the dance group that Sheena has? So it's based on word of mouth. And so if the word of mouth is not trickling in these other communities, then they're not being pulled to these programs. And so we have to somehow create a platform to where we can get the word out about all these awesome programs that exist. And that's what's also going to open up the doorway to diversifying volunteers. You know, I'm privileged to work at PACE, where there's already an established line of interns that come from Florida State. We've just opened up an established line of interns that can come from FAMU. And then kind of like Ms. Margaret was saying, you know, I do a lot of promotion online for volunteers who want to work with our girls as well. But that may not be the case for everybody out there.
Yeah. That's awesome information, Doc. I want to pivot a bit. We're talking about the engagement and police engagement and with our youth, right? Talk to us about when we think of social and emotional security, right? I know we all work with youth and we have a diverse age demographic here that's represented. So I do want to give each of you, right, an opportunity to share with us, because I know we all have these very meaningful conversations, whether it's by choice or by force, right, with our youth that we serve, as far as how they're feeling, right, and how they're responding to something like the George Floyd death or something, you know what I mean, these protests and things of that nature that they're experiencing. How have you all noticed their social and emotional security being affected in your conversations? Let's start with Sheena.
I'm sorry, I was taking notes. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, no. How have you noticed the social and emotional security of your girls has been impacted during this time of chaos and crisis?
Yeah, basically, there has been an increase in anxiety and fear, like not knowing like what's going to happen next. Will I be reinfected? Will I be infected with COVID? And those are mostly the reasons why they can't really participate as we have done in the past, because before we would have the whole group, all of ages, all of the grades, but now we're having to chop up the groups and do the younger age, the middle age, and then the older girls. So with that, with them being, in order to allow them to come, they have to wear masks, they have to sanitize, they have to do regular hand washing breaks. So just that heightened anxiety and fear. And then some of our dancers have medical conditions that will not allow them to do it. So they have to participate virtually, but luckily they are very experienced dancers that can hold their own on the technology versus dancers that we need to bring in, that we have to actually guide them and you know, get them to where they need to be. So it's just you know, being patient with the families, you know, and waiting on them to be ready to come back.
Yeah, Royal, I want to bring you in. You have a unique perspective serving young Black males. And let me just say this, so I don't contribute to the lack of diversity. serving young males, right? It's not just black males, but you do serve a lot of black males. And so I really do want to kind of dig in as a black male to understand what are they feeling, man? What's going on in their heads and hearts right now?
Man, so to be completely honest, the COVID is the least of our worries when dealing with our black boys and boys in general right now. I wish it was the COVID, but I mean, that's an additional barrier so that we can't connect how we would really like to. But a lot of them are having real issues with, I guess, coming to deeper grips with how society sometimes views them. And we've had some serious conversations and about their feelings and not knowing how they should, carry those, and what's been helpful not only for them but the men that participate in our village is kind of been its own healing, having these conversations. Because what do you tell a 16-year-old who's angry, right, at what's happening, and he doesn't have an outlet for where he can put that, but then to tell him, well, I don't have all the answers for you, but I do know that these things here that you can do. You can go for a run, ride your bike, do something that you enjoy to take your mind out of that. But then also, let's have these conversations on how we can come up with solutions as a program to support the feelings you're having, but then let the world see that you're having these feelings in a productive and positive way. And we've been able to do some of those things utilizing social media, giving them a platform to express themselves, but in a positive way. So we've had some real in-depth conversations, and I've been overly impressed and proud of our young men and how forward-thinking they've been in trying to find a way to bring attention to and not distract from.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump to Doc, and then I'm gonna come right back to you, Morel. I want you to. I know we serve these youth, so we like to. It's a level of trust that we have with them, so we don't share much outside of our circles with them. But I want you, while we go to Doc real quick, I want you to think about something that you can share, right? A meaningful conversation with one of these males, with one of the males, and or the parent, a male parent that you can share, because we have such a diverse listening group here on this call that I really feel like we cannot go past the moment of sharing the real truth and heart and soul of not only the black man, but the black male child. So I really want you to think about that and give us some insight on that. But Doc, I saw your hand up. I know you have something to contribute to this. Go ahead.
Right, and so I definitely follow up off of what Roy shared and all the other panelists. And so I think timing was everything with this. I think when we look at the COVID-19 and we look at the racial tensions that have been going on, I think what came to the forefront was just the pandemic period. And I'm not just talking about one disease, but two that have been plaguing America, right? And so what happened was the world slowed down and came to a stop with the first pandemic, and then the world reawoke with the second pandemic of these racial tensions. When I used to play football, I don't look like it now because I got this blazer on. But when I used to play football back in high school, my coach, when you got hurt on the field, my coach used to say, walk it off when you came to the sideline. Just walk off the pain, walk it off. Well, what we realized across this city, state, and nation is that we can't walk off this pain. This has forced us to have to face the hurt that our youth are going through, that certain communities are going through. We have to face the hurt. We can't just walk it off now. And people have to face it. So when we talk about social and emotional learning and trauma informed, we're realizing now that we have to face these conversations with our youth, and where do we go from here?
Yeah. Listen, I'm going to take some of your sound bites today, Doc, and we're going to turn those into some memes, and we're going to go viral today. Now, listen, I do want to hit back to Royal on that piece, but I wanted to, we're winding down on time. I know we all are very respectful of time. We're scheduled to end at 11:30. I want the panel to receive some questions from our audience. So I know we've been having some going through the chat now, but I really want to open it up. LaShawn is over and really looking at any of the questions that we'll spend time to kind of ask any of the particular panelists. I want the final question, the final comment is going to be twofold, right? I want you to speak to your experience in the chaos and crisis and what you're planning, the solution that you all are planning and implementing right now. But at the same time, I would ask you to share with us how to connect with you, right? How to please leave, how we can connect, how we can register to your programs, how we can support you, and then how you can be a part of the village. So Royal, if I can jump to you, if you have an opportunity to kind of share that heart and soul of our Black young men.
Yeah, Kevin, it's a real thing. So I've got a young man who's been in our program since the 6th grade, and he's going into the 11th. And normally a very quiet kid. You know his presence is there, and you feel him when he's there, but normally quiet. And we had a call, one of our first calls when everything first had happened, with Ahmaud Arbery and George Floyd, and Dr. Williams was actually facilitating that conversation with us. And here was this kid who's normally quiet, and he was like crying out for like not knowing what to do. And then out of that, you know, that conversation, he wrote a poem, and it's actually pretty, I mean, it's moving to if you go to our Facebook and social media pages, you can see it there. But he expressed himself, and I was like proud and shocked at the same time, because I mean, this quiet kid who normally has not a lot to say, but took some time and put his words into a poem. And that's what we were talking about when we saying find outlets, like to place that pain. You know, there's ways to protest without protesting. You know, you can protest or express yourself in so many ways. And out of that, it was just a beautiful thing, and it was beautiful, but it was like a painful poem, right? Because he's asking, you know, if I wear a suit, he has dreads. If I wear a suit with my hair down, am I a threat? Or if I have on a T-shirt and shorts or a hoodie, am I now a threat? Why am I viewed this way? And you know, I'm just me. You know, I'm not. You know, I'm a human. At the end of the day, my skin color is a part of me, but it doesn't define me. I'm still just a person. And it was powerful.
Wow. What I heard in that, is something that I believe that we've all been saying for a long time. Silence is complicity, right? And so you when you said that about that young man being quiet, right, and not really speaking up, but his presence was there. I want to encourage us, although a lot of us, and even our Caucasian counterparts, our Caucasian relationships and friendships that we have, although we see your presence, right, although we feel your presence, just like this young man, at some point we got to hear your voice, right? And so that your presence is amazing. It's appreciated, it's loved, it's cherished. But when it gets to that point of bubbling over, it's so much power that will be in your voice, right? And those who listen to you will understand that you don't talk a lot. So the fact that you're speaking means that we need to hush and listen. And so I encourage us all to find our voices, right? To be able to be bold, not only in the face of racial injustice and racism, right? But I'll end it a little light. But if you see somebody not wearing a mask, you be bold and you tell them, put that mask on, right? So with that, I do want to say again, thank you to all of our guests who joined in. I want to give our panelists an opportunity for some closing remarks. So please take about 3 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes, 3 minutes. I'm looking at the time, about 3 minutes, not 5. I'm trying to say not 5. All right, so take a couple minutes to just leave us with some final closing remarks. And again, tell us how we can connect with you over the summer from a volunteer or mentor component standpoint, and for parents to register their kids. Let's start with you, Dr. Willie at Pace. Well, wait. Actually, you know what? We're going to let you close this out, because I feel like what you've been dropping on us, man, we just need to let you drop the mic at the end of this. So let's start with Janae.
All right, so I just wanted to close with saying thank you all for sharing this information with all of us. I took down a lot of notes just like Sheena has, and I'll be putting things into work and connecting with a lot of people. This chaos has caused me to slow down and really focus on what matters the most. And that's really just taking care of this vessel that I'm in, and then making sure that I'm being a good steward for what God has given me. He's given me Girls to Divas, and I've really been taking out the time to make sure that we're setting up Girls to Divas to sustain for forever. But with that being said, Girls to Divas is in need of more support. Next year will be 10 years. I'm a girl from Miami.
I'm gonna celebrate that. Everybody come off mute with that one.
Came to Tallahassee. Didn't really want to come to college. My desire was to just dance all of my life, but God had a purpose in me. And I started Girls to Divas mentoring program. And again, we're turning 10 next year. And for us to see another 10, 20 years, we need a diverse board. So I encourage you to get involved with Girls to Divas. Visit our website, www.girls2divas.org, and help us. We need volunteers. We need funding so that we can continue to be around. We want to connect and engage with other organizations and businesses in Tallahassee. We're looking to venture into other communities. We're looking into Gaston County. Our interns this summer, thank God for the interns. They have been very helpful, and we're tapping on Gaston County's doors, and we're getting involved in their communities, and they have a heavy Hispanic community. So learning how to get involved in other ethnicities is where we are right now. So we could use a lot of support in a lot of different ways, and we're here. Follow us on Instagram at girls2divas_mentoring. And the last thing I want to say is that mentoring is so important, and our girls really need women to look up to, Black or white. We just need positive role models because all of our youth have right now is their TV, but primarily social media. And the messages that's being put out on social media isn't helping our young girls turn into women. It's not aiding them in becoming leaders. It's not helping them in any kind of way. So we need more representation. We just need more support. So please stand behind mentoring, stand behind all of these programs, and thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure.
Janae, I'm proud of you. 10 years in the game. I'm proud of you. Congratulations on that. Miss K. Can we hear you? Here, let's jump to Miss Thomas. Miss Margot, why don't you close out and we'll jump back to you, Kay.
So I think I'm the person in the group with both male and female in our program. We are always looking for mentors. We typically look for volunteers for Saturday academies, but those are going to be online this year. So our big thing is mentoring. We are doing mentoring virtually. If you know someone who would be interested, we work with Leon, Gadsden, and Wakulla counties. So we are doing more with high schoolers this year. We're always looking for professionals in the community who can talk about, their different professions, because a lot of times we see with our population of students, everyone wants to be an engineer, but they don't know what kind. And they don't realize that, math and all of those things are required. Every girl wants to be a nurse, but they don't have the science grades, and they don't know what all that encompasses. So we are trying to give them realistic ideas, because sometimes in low income, we find that students are looking for the jobs that are going to make them money. And parents are pushing these students towards certain types of jobs. And the goal is not to really get them to any specific degree, at least not for our program. It's to get them to, whether it's a bachelor's degree, whether it's an associate's degree and get out to work, whether it's going and doing technical, they can do welding. We pay for that as well. So, we're always looking for mentors to help out. We're always looking for instructors or people that will come in and speak to the students just about life in general and some of the things that they're doing in their careers. We are, actually, this year is 25 years for Take Stock in Children at TCC. And I'm always amazed that, you know, we've been here for 25 years and hardly anyone knows about Take Stock in Children. So, or like the fact that we give scholarships to students when they graduate. So the last few years, I've really been trying to connect more with the communities and just let people know what we actually do and what we provide to our students so that our students can get the best opportunities that are out there. And then we're also looking for students. So if you know a student in Leon, Gadsden, or Wakulla counties, we serve certain schools just because, you know, right now we're at 20 schools and we're trying to reduce that. But anyone in any of the high schools, right now we don't serve trials, but all of the Leon high schools, Gadsden High, Wakulla High, if you know students that potentially meet the requirement for us, then send them over as well.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. Sheena.
Hey, well, as my former executive director with Children's Home Society, Mr. Charles McDonald would say, he used to always say, the kids doesn't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So basically, the kids need to know that it's just not about them knowing how to dance, or it's just not, you know, being like this good dancer, but knowing that you really care about them. So I try to show that every day by, you know, offering, committing to picking them up to bring them to practice, making sure that they can stay actively involved. But just being there and showing them support and ask them how their day is going or how they're doing in school. Not just, can you do an 8 count, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you know, all that kind of stuff. So basically, ways that you guys can keep us in your thoughts is by inviting us to any events that you guys are hosting, whether it's just to share information or to participate in whatever you guys are doing, providing sponsorship.
And how can they get you? How can they reach out to you?
They can reach me at beehiveelite.com or visit our website at www.beehiveelite.com. Also, you can reach me on my phone, 850-264-0543. And we're always here. Anything that you guys will need us to do, whatever you're hosting, any way we can help. I'm sure we can get in there somewhere to do something that you're doing to show, you know, come and show support.
Sheena, you are amazing. Thank you so much.
Yes,
you
sir.
are amazing. Miss K, do we have you back? Oh, we can't hear. Miss K, I need to hear this too. I know it's gonna be something amazing and good. We're gonna get the information just in case we can't get you back.
Can you hear me?
We got you. If I knew I'd just talk long enough, it'll work.
Thank you so much for your patience. I am literally trying to wrap my brain around all of the thoughts that are coming my way. I want to piggyback on what Sheena was saying, is that it's so important that we create space where we can listen and talk to the children. I just recently, last night, heard a program, and I don't know if anyone else has heard about this project called Grandma's Bench. And these are colored benches situated throughout the community, where generally the grandmothers of the community sit, find us, and anyone who wants to walk up and talk to that grandma, they're able to do that.
When does this happen?
I can give you more information. It's a research study. And currently, the program is in New York, but the others are out of Africa. And it's an amazing program.
That sounds like it.
But
so how can we get in touch with you, Kay? I'm sorry, I'm just we're running along a little bit of time. I want to get the rest of them out. So how can we get in touch with you, and how can we register this summer for STEM for Girls?
Okay, so STEMs for Girls will be offering tutorial services over at the Village. You can get more information about our events and activities by visiting our webpage at www.stems, that's STEMS, the number 4 girls, Science, Tech, Engineering, and Math Studies, the number 4, girls, fl.org. I'll
Awesome.
type it on here so that you can visually see our email address. So thank you for this opportunity, and I look forward to working with each and every one of you.
Absolutely, Kay. Thank you. Royal, and then we got to leave some time for Doc.
I'll try to be brief because I know Willie need the extra time. In terms of connecting with us, social media, we're everywhere. Our website, OmegaLamplighters.org, actually just had a little revamp, and we're still making some updates to it, making it look a lot cleaner. So you can connect there. We're always on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Facebook, just Omega Lamplighters. Instagram and Twitter, Lamplighters850. We got a pretty big following between our social media accounts. This summer, man, we're in the process of bringing in 42 young men into our program, and we've designed it in a way to where we just, our kids appreciate and value being in the program because we just don't give it to them. And from my own experience as a young man who was in mentoring program, when you just give something to somebody, they don't have the same passion for it. So our induction process is designed to re-educate our young men, how to be professional, dress for success. We provide them with resumes so that once they enter into this world as lamplighters, they have some accountability, but a new presence along with it. So we're excited about that. We won't be accepting new young men again until March next year. But connect with us through social media. My email is royalking, ROYLE, king at OmegaLamplighters.org, and I'm always available, and will make myself available for anything related to youth, boys or girls, because they're all our kids. And one of my big sayings is that we can be a part of the solution now and provide a space for them to be successful, or we can deal with them in other arenas where we don't want to. So,
Royal, I appreciate your service, man. I appreciate what you do for our community and for our young men. Thank you so much for that. Doc.
Right, man. Well, first of all, once again, I'm the program director at Pace Center for Girls for Leon County. This has been one of the most challenging times in serving our girls. We serve more than 70 girls in both middle and high school, providing them with online academic services. But I think the most challenging part has been realizing that we had to go beyond the online and actually go out to homes to provide them with just the near a bare essentials of hygiene products and food, a lot of time caring for families, because even though the world changed, their situations didn't change as far as the backgrounds that they came from. They still had to deal with the low income and the poverty thing. So if you would like to donate, whether it's hygiene products or any kind of money or food donations, my email is willie.williams@pacecenter.org. You can also reach out to LaShawn Gordon, who's with UPHS, and I'm pretty sure she'll provide all of our contact information or any additional information to contact us. As it pertains to this conversation, thank you to the United Partners for Human Services for the platform to actually have this discussion. Like I said, this is the first time I've been on a panel discussion with all youth professionals. Thank you, Kevin, for directing all these great questions between the chat and then the panelists as well. Professionals, know that we matter. Know that we matter, and we have to be purposeful and on purpose when engaging with our youth, right? We have to engage with them on purpose with a purpose, and we have to be transparent. Don't be afraid, parents, youth, professionals, to let them know that we are hurting too. We fear what tomorrow is bringing to, and even as a youth professional, a youth advocate, a youth leader, I cry. I cry at night, just like the next person cries at night, because we don't know what's going on, but together we can all get through this. And if I had to leave one thing with us as professionals, is really my favorite saying in saying that if your presence doesn't make an impact, your absence won't make a difference. Every day we have to make sure what we're doing is making an impact. because everybody's great, right? We have great leaders, we have great professionals, we have people who make great salaries, but there's very few people who are significant. And when you're significant, you're making a difference. And we have to be significant in what we're doing because we're impacting way more than us. And so I loved it, man. I look forward to what we have coming next. And thank you to everybody else who was on this call.
Absolutely. Listen, Doc, like I told you, you might as well drop the mic. So check it out. I want us to go from this space, right? I'm every meeting that you guys will see me or come to, I close it with what are our action items, right? So we have some action items as a community, right? All of us as a community who run programming will get a baseline data assessment, right? We will begin to collect your data. If you do not know how to do that, please reach out to me, reach out to LaShawn. We are creating this coalition. I actually run the first community incubator. We just launched it. We'll be opening up for community space and services as of tomorrow. So if you have a program, if you're looking for summer space, if you're looking for workshop space, whether it be for children and youth or for professional development, I would love to have Mr. Mickey Moore out to talk more about nonprofits and that transition. Love to have LaShawn come out and do workshops for us out at the Village. And so I do want us to leave this place encouraged, right? And prepared for action. We all have something that we can do. We all have a voice and some boldness that we can execute and implement. So as we depart from this place, find out what you can do. I encourage our community to turn off the news and go to talk to the community leaders that are in our community right now, right? We have an amazing group of leaders. We have an amazing group of law enforcement. We have an amazing group of educators here in our community. It is completely unique. And so I challenge us all to engage more, right? And become more connected as a community. So with that, it's all peace. We ended all hearts and minds clear. Listen, I appreciate you all. Thank you guys so much. The crowd, the audience, you guys are amazing. Be blessed and have an amazing rest of your week. You guys have a great one. We are all we need.